Alright, here we are and I am ready to get back at it. Tonight I'm going to paint with you some tomatoes in a nice little pan here. This picture comes to us via way of PMP art. This is a photo taken by a photographer named Vyacheslav. I think that's right. Might be right, might not be right. I'm going to go with it. But I like the composition. I don't know if I'm going to make it quite as dark as we have in the background here, but we're going to give this a go. I think this is going to be a nice painting for us. I am, of course, using my Mmmmm paints that I have filled in my tin, and I'm using my travel tin because I think it's smaller, and I'm hoping I can set it up here. You'll be able to see it through most of the video. I've got all the colors listed here, so when I use them, I'll be able to call them out for you. I am going to try to do all of this, but I don't think I'll be able to do all of it. I'm going to try to do all of this with my Princeton Select paint brushes. They're nice. They're good quality brushes. They're not my favorite brushes, but I'm going to give them another try. I'm going to use them on this one. And where I need a larger brush, maybe for this large section out here, I'm going to step up to my Princeton Neptune faux squirrel mop brushes, and that'll help me fill in that area very, very quickly. So let's get started, and I'm already kind of cheating because I have pre-drawn this, and this is what I came up with. So let's just dive in and get going with it. So I'm going to pick out my largest brush that I've got here, which is a number 6. And I'm going to come in with some yellow. I believe this is my gamboge, a nice bright yellow. And I'm going to paint a few highlight areas. As I'm looking on my picture, I can see that parts of the tomatoes, let me put this back so you can see what I'm seeing. Like this side of the tomato over here, this side, all of these, many parts of the pan over here are quite yellow. And so I just want to, before I do anything else, I'm going to put my yellow down there. I'm going to try to work this painting with my lightest colors first, and then we will work into our darker colors, and we'll just see how it goes. Maybe it's going to go well, maybe it won't go well. We're going to muddle through it together and whatnot. I'm sure it'll be fine. If nothing else, we're going to have a good time with it, and that oftentimes is half the battle. So if you're painting at home and you're not enjoying it, you're not going to have a good painting. If you are enjoying it, you've got a good shot at having a great painting. So I'm just dropping in some color. I'm not necessarily trying to stay within the lines at this point, as you can see. We're going to come back with some darker color, so I'm not too worried about it. And I'm trying not to let the fact that I might have some harder edges in here bother me too much, but I know it's going to. So we're just going to kind of go with that. And while I'm waiting for that to dry, I'm going to look back at my picture, and I'm going to make a bluish kind of gray-y mixture down here. So I'm using my, I don't know what I'm using, phthalo blue, not phthalo blue. I'll have to pick that up to look at it. Anthraquinone blue with a little bit of Payne's gray mixed into it. You know what, before I do that, I'm going to get some red in here. I'm going to use my quinacridone red. Now that I've got blue on it, it's going to look a little purple-ish. And that's okay that it's a little pink-ish. So I'm going to put it on real lightly. I'm looking at the picture, and it seems that I might have some pinkish colors over here. Maybe it's a reflection of something. I'm just going to scribble those colors on there. And even if it's not the reflection of something there, it's going to add a little bit of color in the background for us. So we'll put it on, or not in the background, but on the back of this pan for us. So we're going to put it on there anyways. There we go, just like that. And while that's still wet, I'm just going to drop in a little bit of this color. I know it's pretty dark down here, so I'm going to drop that in and just let that mix on its own. Again, it's not super dark right now, as you can tell. Let's see if I can zoom you in a little bit. There we go. It's not super dark. It's still a pretty watery mix. And I want to leave it fairly watery to let everything run, kind of meet up and find out what they need to do here. There we go. Just like that. You know what? Maybe not just like that. Now I look back at this. Maybe I want to do a little bit more, something under that lip. Just about like that. That's probably pretty good right there. I'm going to stop with it right there. No, I'm not. You know what? I'm going to give it just a tiny bit over here. Now I'm going to stop with it. Just going to feather out that hard edge right there. There we go. Alright, now I'm going to come back with a red color. Let me see, what do I want to get? I'm going to get Pyrrole red, and I'm going to mix some of that with my gamboge. If you've seen my videos before, you know I love gamboge as a yellow. I think it's fantastic. And I'm going to put some gamboge on these tomatoes and maybe fill in the rest or much of the rest of these as our color, as our highlight changes a little bit from lighter to a little bit darker. There we go. I'm just going to paint that on in a couple of areas. We're going to come back and we're going to paint on, you know, yet darker color. So let's just get this on a little bit. I did Pyrrole red and gamboge. You can't see me mixing it. Maybe I can scoot all of it together. There we go. And I'm just going to kind of blend these edges out just a little bit. Here I don't necessarily want to have a hard edge. And since my yellow has dried just that little bit, I'm just going to take that hard edge off. I'm actually going to take it off on both sides. There we go. And if you don't know how to do that, we just get our brush just a little wet, dip it in your water real fast, swizzle it around a little bit, get it out and just tap it off on your towel and run it through, just through the edge of that color, and it'll pick up just enough of the moisture off the paper that it'll take that hard edge away. There we go, something just like that. Okay, so let's see, now what can I do? I'm going to come back here and I'm going to alter my color just a little bit. I'm going to actually make it a little bit more red. And I'm going to come back to our bluish gray mixture. I'm going to put it up here. I'm going to let those two colors mix a little bit, meet somewhere right in the middle, and that's going to be our shadow on the inside of that pot. There we go. You can just see it right there. I don't know, I hope you can see it. See, let me move my color. This is where I'm talking about, right there, just a little bit, and we've made a little gradient from red or orange down here up to our blue over there. And now I'm going to mix a little bit of color. Again, let me put this right on top. Continuing to work on my tomatoes. I'm going to put some Pyrrole red in here and a little bit of maroon in here, and that's going to darken that red down that little bit. And if I were on camera, you could see it. There it is, right there. Darkened it down a little bit. And now I'm going to really start to come in and look at where I need to put that red, where some dark shadows are in here. And I'm going to be mindful not to let too much of it just go rogue and get on different tomatoes. So I'm gonna constantly force this thing to do what I want it to. Let me see, I'll do over here. This is a more friendly tomato over here, I think. Let's see. At least it should be a more friendly tomato, because we haven't done anything around this one. So there we go. I've got him, or her, I don't know. And I'm just going to soften this edge. I'm going to get a little water on here, dampen that edge off, and just draw it over, just like that. It's going to take that hard edge away, and it's going to let the rest of the paint just ooze right through that damp zone. This tomato over here, we should be able to do this with. Need to mix a little extra, a little Pyrrole red, a little maroon. If my colors aren't exactly the same, I'm okay with it. And now I've made a big blunder, a small blunder. I touched the pan, and immediately that red started to bleed out. I don't know if you saw that, but it did, and I wanted to put a stop to that because red is so staining of a color, and I didn't want it to bleed into that pan. So before it did that, I just stopped it a little bit. Now I'm trying to take a little bit of care here and paint around some of our tomato stem, or a leaf there, just because I don't necessarily want to have to paint over everything or lift that color off. When I go back, I think I'm going to have to lift the little color off in a few places, and I'm okay with that. I think you should probably be okay with that too. It's a technique we should all learn to master, just lifting off a little paint. That's okay to do, but if we don't have to, I'm going to try to avoid it just this little bit. So there we go. I think that's what I want to paint on that tomato. And I'm going to soften all of these edges. I'm going to let it do what it wants to do. There we go. Just let it have fun, and all that paint can run around. I'm going to come back up here. Ooh, let's see. I got the wrong color. My quinacridone red is right next to my maroon, and I dipped my brush in the wrong one. I don't know if you can see. Can you see? Let's just do this. Zoink! There you go. So I dipped it in this one instead of that one, and I got a lot brighter color than I thought I was going to get. So I'm just going to do a little bit of adjusting. Kind of an orangey red and a little less maroon, but we're going to go with it because not all tomatoes are created equal. And we're just going to put it right over like that. There we go. Actually, I think that's a great tomato color. That nice orange right there. It's a blunder, a watercolor blunder that turned out great for us. That's fantastic. There we go. And I'm going to blend this little bit of color out. I want to get a little bit above that leaf or that stem. just a little bit of that color, so it doesn't look like it's too abrupt of a change in color. One color below the stem and one color above it. So I'm just going to futz with that a little bit. And I'm going to put that same color on this tomato over here, this little tiny one we can just barely see there. There it is. All right, and let's see. I think while we're waiting for those, I'm going to come back and being careful right around here. I'm going to do a little bit more coloring on our pot here. Let's see. I'm gonna keep this color pretty loose, pretty wet, and just gonna come in and add a little bit to the bottom down here. Just redarkening that shadow back up again. There we go. I'm looking at my drawing. I'm looking up here and looking back here, and my proportions aren't quite right. I don't think it's going to matter. My feeling is in watercolors, I draw just well enough so that I can do my painting. I'm not, you know, my paintings are fairly realistic, but it's not necessarily how I want to paint. So if they're not exactly right, it's not going to bother me at all. I'm doing a representation of it, not an exact copy of it. And if I keep telling myself I'm doing that, it really takes a lot of pressure off trying to duplicate what I see. So if any of you out there can take that advice and use it, do it. You're not trying to duplicate what you see. You're using that as inspiration to use it for your advantage to paint whatever it is you want to paint. Let's see, I'm going to get a little bit, I'm going to wait and go back there, I think. Let me give it a little smaller brush. Dropping down to, what do I have here? A number 2 brush. I'm going to give a little bit of color on my handle. Just like that. I'm going to leave the back here mostly free of color. So I think the light is kind of coming down this way somewhat anyways. And I want it to shine back there. So I'm looking at my tomato here, and I got a little harder edge than I wanted. I'm just going to see if I can get some of that off. If I can't, I got a fallback plan. If I can get some of that off of there. Alright. That's actually not bad. But I got a fallback plan. We can come back. We're going to put another layer on there maybe. And we'll see how it goes. Alright, I'm going to continue to work. I'm going to alter my blue color. And continue to work on my pot here. I'm putting a little ultramarine in it just so I can change it up just a little bit. I don't want everything to be the same. There we go. So it is a very similar color, but it's not the same. And I'm going to hope that that variation, that subtle variation, though it is, that little variation helps your eye when you view this. Maybe it doesn't look so monotone through here, which of course we don't want. There we go. Put a little bit of that blue all the way across. I think we've got a fairly convincing pot right there. I do need to come back and work on this handle. I realize that. And what I'm going to do that is just darken my color a little bit. And let's see if I can do this. Darken the bottom side and back at the base, and then pull that out ever so slightly. I need to leave it light at the top up here, so that we get some definite shadow line in it. We want dark next to light as we do this. Alright, there we go. Alright, I'm going to get one more shot on a couple of tomatoes here. Actually, I forgot a whole tomato. Can take care of that right there. There we go. Wow, we've forgotten no longer. There's our forgotten tomato, all taken care of. And while we're waiting for that one to dry a little bit, let's come back and work on this guy. He's a little browner than I wanted, so I am going to use still my maroon and my pyrrole red, but I'm mixing in more of my gamboge. I like that orange, that dark orangey color so much from over here that I'm going to use it again. And I'm just going to make sure I put this all around. I'm not going to use blue to make shadow with on this painting. A lot of people use blue for shadow, or they'll darken up the color they have. Sometimes it works out great. Sometimes I look at it when that happens and I go, holy cow, what happened to this thing? And it just doesn't work out. It doesn't somehow ring quite right for me using blue like that. So I'm going to skip it, and we'll just darken the color up like that. And we're going to do the same thing on this guy here with our little bit more orangey mix. How am I doing for time here? Trying to do this quickly so we're not here all night, although I'm happy to be here all night. I don't know how viewing this is going to be if it drags on too long, so I'm trying to speed it up a little bit so you can get the idea and can take the ideas and run with them. There we go. And on this one, I'm going to begin just softening that edge, that hard edge. That might be too much water. There we go. That's better, I think. Good, good, good. Nice and light up there. I'm going to take the chance at darkening this one up here that is already a little damp maybe. Nope. That's all right. Come on, water, don't fail me now. Good, that looks good, that looks good. I'm going to leave that just like that. And you can see, I hope you can see, shoot, where I made it darker right underneath that bit of the stem. It really makes that pop out. Hopefully we can capture that with some good green on there so that it'll stay popped out like that. Whoa, wrong way. All right, here we go. I'm looking back at my tomato over here. My color has run just a little bit, so I'm just going to touch that so I don't get a hard edge on that one. And let's see, what do we need to do? Color that tomato. Believe it or not, We're coming down the home stretch, believe it or not. Darken this tomato just like that. Our tomatoes are almost done. We've got to just put on our stems, our greenery on them. The background we're going to do in one big chunk. That won't take too long for us to do. All right, let's work on this tomato back here. Now this one we have some lighter yellow up here, so I'm going to start my red a little bit higher on that one. And even though the two kind of match in color down here, up here it's visually gonna make it look like one is in front of the other, and I'm hoping that that look is gonna carry the day for us. Just gonna lift out a little bit of that red. There we go. I like that. I like that. I like where this whole thing is going so far. All right, now we got to decide what we want to do with our tabletop and our two sides here. So I'm going to get a bigger brush. What do I have here? This is a number 10. And I'm going to go into some, you know what? I'm going to go into some burnt umber. Color everybody's likely to have. Some nice burnt umber, and I'm going to mix that with, oh, what am I going to mix that with? I'm going to start putting some on like this, and in a few areas I'm going to mix in some blue. So I am going to use some blue for a shadow, but blue, especially ultramarine blue, when you mix it with burnt umber, it makes a nice, really nice dark tint. And where I go around these tomatoes, even with my brown or my burnt umber, I want to keep that kind of a pure color. I'm going to mix in some of this red. There we go. So it looks kind of like there's a little reflection on there. And I'm going to do a little bit of this blue color in here. Just while we're still wet, there's a reflection of our pan. Need to push that up a little bit. There we go. Just going to pull this right on around. Now I don't see too much of a reflection of my tomato here, so I'm just going to give a little bit of extra. There we go, just like that. And now you can totally see we've got some nice red reflections on there. I'm going to do the same thing for this guy. Just put some red. I don't have to reflect the entire tomato. I don't have to make a carbon copy of it. I just have to give the indication that it's there, that that reflection is there somehow. And your eye's going to pick that up and go, oh, I know exactly what that is. That's the look of tomato on that table. I'm leaning way far over. I hope you are not looking at the back of my head. I cannot think of too many things that are less exciting for anybody to look at while they're painting than that. And so now I'm just throwing in throwing in some colors, dropping them in here to give this more of a mottled kind of a look. I don't want it to be super uniform in here. There we go. I think we've got our table done. I think that looks pretty good. There we go. I had it drying at a different time over there. Now we need to turn our attention to our big dark up here and on this wall. And what I'm thinking of doing is a mixture of sap green. Let's do this. Sap green. I'm going to put it up here. This is olive green. And if I get some of that yellow in there, oops, that's going to be fine. I'm not going to worry too much about it. And cobalt green. Let me put that down here. And we're going to mix all of these up in here, and I'm using green instead of the gray that's in here for this reason. And I should say I'm going to mix that with Payne's gray, just to darken it down a little bit. But I'm doing that because I'm hoping that the green that's in there is going to help to bring out some of the red. So the green and the red are opposite colors. And opposite colors hopefully will make each other stand out that little bit. And if we make it kind of dark out here, I think nobody is going to ask why it's green. There we go. I'm painting around, just trying to paint around all of our stuff there. I don't want to get into it. And right down to our table line. There we go. This might be the only place on this painting where we really have to be careful. And this is the good place if we've painted out of the lines at any point in our painting. Our green is going to cover it right up. So there we go. Now you can see I'm starting to develop this nice, oh, that's the wrong color green. Well, that's fine. I'm starting to develop this nice mottled green color out here. I'm going to put some Payne's gray in there. And it's going to be this nice, crazy background. Let's get some olive green in here going. There we go. I just need to pull that down, push everything out of my way so I can do this. And we'll see how good of a job we did with these tomatoes if when we put this green background on, the tomatoes just pop off of here. And right up this side, it's fun. I don't know why I picked this picture. I like the tomatoes. I love tomatoes. I felt like painting some tomatoes, and now I'm painting it, and I'm going, why? Half my painting is just kind of a mottled kind of nothing here. It's fun to do. But maybe not the most technical stuff. There we go. I think that's a nice dark mottled background. I'm going to let this part dry. And when I get a harder edge over here. Then I'm going to come back and we're gonna put in this wall on this side. But let's let that dry up a little bit. While we're waiting for that, let's drop down and get a, I don't know, this is a number 2 brush. Let's get another green going here. And I'm going to make a mix of my phthalo green and sap green. Actually, before I do that, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to get a nice yellow. Let's see, I've got Hansa yellow going here. And I've mixed it with a little bit of my green. I just want to put a nice layer of green down here, and that's going to be nice and bright so that if we need to use that for a highlight, we can do that. We'll already have that bright green on there, and then we'll come back with another layer of green and put on our lowlights. I want to make sure we keep the tomatoes nice and bright. And that Hansa yellow, along with that other green, really makes a nice, vibrant, like a fresh color green, if that makes any sense. And I think you can see that on these already. There we go. Oh, that's nice. That's nice. I'll be a little careful up there not to pull in any of our background color green. Good. Okay, there's all my stems on there. And let's see, I'm going to get a little darker. I'm going to use olive, actually, my olive green. Just mix that all in there. You can see me just putting that in all around. And while it's still wet, I'm just going to drop that into a couple of places where I think there's going to be a shadow or two. It's going to run a little bit. I'm not going to worry too much about it because I'm just putting in little dabs of it. Not anything big. Maybe I don't even need to do it on that one. I've got so much red on that one. I need somebody here to tell me. Zoom in, zoom out. Nobody can see what you're doing. And let's see. I think at the moment I need to take just a little break. Everything I need to work on. You know what? I can do. No, I don't need to do that. I can do this. I've got a nice blue rim around this, around the pot. Here it is. So I am going to paint that on there while I'm waiting for everything else. I'm going to use the same colors I've used before. Same ones I used here for our shadow, but much more intense, much bluer. And let's see how this goes. Kind of curious. Just using my number 2 brush. Number 2, right? Yep. Still my number 2 brush. Just going to drop that on. All right, it's looking pretty good. Oh, got a little thick there. That's okay. See if I can smooth this out. There we go. I might even want to make that a little stronger. I don't know if it needs it. Let's just see if I put a little bit on there, if it makes it any better. Yeah, that's not so bad. That looks pretty good with a little bit of strengthening. And of course over. Okay, so I'm looking for shine on here now. I think I can continue with the olive color on my stems. Put that on just in a couple of places. We don't need to define the whole stem, the whole bit of these leaves. We just need to add a little bit of color to them. And who's ever viewing this, their eyes are really going to pick up what they want to pick up. And we're going to take credit for everything that they see. That's kind of how it works. There we go, just adding some darks and some, trying not to cover all of the lights that are on there. There we go. I'm probably going to leave that like that. I think it looks pretty good. We could come back and do a little bit more for this. Got a little heavy there, so I'm going to pull a little bit out. We could come back and do just a little bit more on this if we needed to. I don't know that we need to. I'm going to come over on our side over here, and I want this to be just a little bit lighter than that. I'm going to use more of my cobalt green. And if you bear with me for 1 second, I'm going to just tip this. We'll see if we can't just kiss that edge. Gotta look up to see if you can see what I'm doing. Let's see, how does it look if I turn it this way? Well, it definitely looks like two different planes. Sometimes if you don't turn it the right way, you can't see exactly what it looks like. Now here's going to be the moment of faith. How did I do? Putting that ring on. Can I get around there without touching it? Just barely, I guess, huh? There you go. We got a little cross contamination, but I don't think that's too bad. I'm going to call that good for right now. If I can center that and get it in here. There's my interpretation of a basket or a pan full of tomatoes. I'm just going to sign this one and call it good. I had a great time painting with you. I hope you guys enjoyed painting with me. I can't wait to paint with you again in the studio next time. Until then, bye-bye.